In today's video, I'm going to tell you how you can improve when going to job interviews in English as a non-native speaker. So we're gonna see how to use storytelling to better go to these job interviews with more confidence, to make better presentation, selling yourself. Because what a job interview is basically you are giving your elevator pitch, you are selling yourself. Well, not yourself, you're selling your professional story. So I'm going to give you a very different perspective on how to improve going to job interviews, how to pass job interviews in English as a non-native professional. Anna, welcome to my channel. I'm a public speaking and pronunciation coach for business and entrepreneurs who are non-native and want to work internationally. If that is your case, here you're going to learn all the tips and tricks in order to get that international job of your dreams, or if you have it, in order to feel much more fluent and confident and communicate in this new language in a much better way. So in the video of today, I'm going to give you the best of tips if you are in this moment, in this process of going to a job interview and you're preparing for it. And maybe the first thing you think about is, okay, I'm going to memorize. I have all these questions of behavioral interviews. They are normally always the same. Tell me about yourself, how you handle this difficult situation. You know, they're very like concrete questions and you are preparing them, memorizing them. That's the first thing I'm going to suggest you. You can totally do that, but I totally suggest you not to memorize. We tend to memorize because we want to overcompensate. We may think that we have not the fluency or the level. And this is the first thing for you to remind yourself. It's not about having an advanced level. You can totally go to this interview and make the best out of it. Even with an intermediate level, it's more about training yourself and preparing yourself strategically with these stories that I'm going to tell you now how to do. So let go about memorization and let go all the business jargon and the memorization of all the questions by heart, because what happens if you do this is that you're going to sound very robotic. What the hiring manager wants is to see who you are, because then what is the difference between you and the other candidates? If you all have the same skills, the only difference is your story. It's what makes you unique. It's the way that you face challenges, it's the way that you behave in different circumstances, and also the way you relate with your team and the way you are as a leader. So how do you show that? The only way you can show that is through storytelling, using storytelling as a way to go and make the best out of this interview. What happens many times is that we have the skills, we are in the right moment at the right time, but we don't know how to communicate that we are that candidate. Another thing that is very important for you to remember is going to that interview with a win-win mindset. With a win-win mindset. This is very important. Like, you're not going there with a desperate energy, like, give me this job, you know. The best is always to train yourself also from a mindset perspective on getting to that job interview, thinking of, okay, they are looking, they need me as much as I need them. So then you become this energetic match. This is very, very important because that translates in your communication and in the way you tell your stories. That's something that you also have to prepare yourself and work before going there. Work on your ikigai. Ikigai means the intersection between your purpose, your skills, and your talents, and how that relates to what the world needs. In this case, the company, what the company needs. That's why it's so important that you make a very deep research on the company, understand very well their values and how both of you are matched to each other, so that you go there with this win-win energy. This is very important. If you need coaching for this, remember that I'm gonna leave you all the links below, because I do one-on-one coaching to help you on preparing for these job interviews when you're a non-native English speaker and crafting this incredible story for your professional life. How do we do this? How do we get to make this preparation, and how do we tell a good story? So we have to go to this ancient technique of storytelling. So storytelling is one of the most ancient techniques, practices, and professions in human history. You maybe don't think about it, but we have been storytellers since the beginning. Not only for Hollywood or for those who are winning Oscars with their scripts, it's also for you. Understanding what is behind a good story. Actually, it's very simple, and the structure of a good story, it's basically down to 3 elements. So tension, conflict, resolution. 3 elements that create a great story. And in order to give you an example, because the best is always to see that in examples, I come with one of my favorite scripts ever, and one of my favorite stories that is Rocky. The story of Rocky Balboa that was played by Sylvester Stallone. And actually, the very way Sylvester Stallone got to make Rocky is very impressive because he was about to get bankrupt. Like he was living, he almost had to sell his dog. And he like made the script of Rocky in 3 days. And then when he was selling that to the producers, they didn't really want him to be the one playing the character. And actually he was writing his own characters because they were casting him in ways that he didn't really want or was not interesting for him. So it's really, really interesting because the own story of Sylvester Stallone making Rocky, like the movie, it's a hero journey on its own. It's like this kind of one story inside the other, and it's really fun, like when you actually see that from that place. So the thing that makes Rocky so special, that there is also this struggle in order to make it happen. And then it became this incredible success that hit all the possible things, like a lot of Oscars and a lot of sequels. What make Rocky such a great, great story? So Rocky, that was released in 1975, so I take you back in time to the 70s. It's a really good story because of different elements. It has this structure, so we have to see this rag to riches story. So it means de vagabundo a millonario. So it's this kind of story that what makes a story great is not the fact that Rocky won at the end. It's not the fact of winning the championship as a boxing player. What makes Rocky a great story is the struggle.
You know, the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
He is being knocked out, and like he keeps, he wants to give up, and then he gets up and he gets knocked out and he gets up again. That grit, that perseverance, that training, that consistent training, and like waking up and getting up, that's what makes Rocky so great, because we can relate emotionally with that conflict and with that struggle. And that's exactly the same thing for you when you are preparing for your professional story, for creating your professional story and like getting better at telling it. You have to focus on the conflict. So shift your focus from your work, like from, okay, this is my work description, these are the things that I can do, this is my skill set, that is great, that's part of that, but now we want to shift that focus and turn it into what are your insights, what are the things that you're learning from that conflict. Imagine, for example, that you're a project manager and that you have been working for years, and one of the main things that you've learned is one time when doing a project and trying to meet the deadlines, you need to be more empathetic with the team. And like then you say, okay, becoming more empathetic, becoming more open, like being curious about what people are going through in their lives, help me create this more relaxed environment at work. And then we were more creative to bring about solutions. And I learned that about that situation. Be, for example, by way of explaining and learning and something that we can relate with. It will be much more engaging. Like, we'll connect more emotionally with the hiring managing team. Like they will see you as a leader. This is the key. We want to see how those conflicts changed you and how you became the professional you are today, the leader you are today, because each of the projects and each of the things we go through, each of the conflicts we go through, there is something we learn as humans. There is something that helps us evolve and become better at what we do. Thanks to that conflict, thanks to that struggle. So that's exactly the same, for example, in Rocky. Also, in the case of the story of Rocky, you may think, okay, this is a story of a boxer. It's not interesting for me because, I'm not into sports and into boxing. and you will miss such a great movie because it's not really a story about sports or about boxing. It's a love story. It's a beautiful love story, and actually what makes you really connect with Rocky and love the character is that he has such a big heart. So it's the story between Adrian and Rocky that also we love so much, is to see the heart and the humanity and the empathy in Rocky, besides the fact that he's really fit and really strong. So also that emotion, that heart-to-heart connection, it's so important in the way you tell your story. And a leader, it's that you can relate to others. So we need to see how you do that through action. So focus your stories a lot in the action that happened and what you learn from that, what you learn from the conflict, what you learn from the struggle. Remember that it's not about using complex language. You can actually use language at the level of intermediate and make a really impactful and great interview. So I totally encourage you never to think that because of your fluency, because you think, oh, I'm not an advanced fluent speaker, I cannot go for this job interview at this international company. You can totally go for it. You can totally make it, because what you need is to prepare. And this is another takeaway we can have from Rocky, that is the training. Rocky trains himself. It's about pain and blood. It's about struggle. The training is so important. So record yourself, use your phone, or use the camera, see yourself how you do it, how you can tell the story in a more effective way. Notice the intonation, notice if you're putting emotions in there, because if not, you're going to sound robotic and they're going to see you. So it's a lot about that preparation. The more you prepare the story, the better. You can also introduce some linkers and, for example, however, nevertheless, to sum up, little things that you can start applying and introduce in order to tell your story in a way that is more clear. It's not as much about learning all the jargon and the language. I mean, there is a part of that. And of course, you need to improve on the most important jargon on your profession, on what you do. You need that in order to describe what you do. It's important, and that you get clear on the pronunciation of those words. But it's even much more important the way you tell the story, and to prepare yourself on the main points. So the speaking points that you want to answer on all of those questions. So it's more about having this kind of bullet points, having this kind of, okay, I'm going to talk about this story, than memorizing something. So it's much more effective if you focus on having these speaking points, this kind of different stories you prepare in order to answer the different questions. Maybe with one story, you can actually answer many of the questions. So that way, you're going to be much more prepared, because you're not answering from a memorized thing. You're basically coming with, okay, these are the points. This is like the structure or the script that I have. And from there, you can flow naturally into the interview. And then you're going to come across much more natural and sell yourself, because in a way, that's what a job interview is. You are selling yourself, you're selling your professional story. So remember, it's all about storytelling. In this case, it's the storytelling of your job, of your professional experience. So the more you learn how to tell that story, the better for all the different job interviews you need to encounter. If you have arrived to the end of the video, I hope that you find all of these different tips helpful. Maybe you have never think about practicing this way through storytelling. Most of the things I'm going to talk about in this channel are actually a very different approach to business English. It's more focused on public speaking, it's more focused on storytelling and how to become a great storyteller in English, and how to make it work the best way for you and make fluency happen for you, because you're focusing on the right strategies. And it's all about stop focusing on vocabulary and jargon. That's part of the skill, but it's much more important that you focus on becoming a great storyteller on this language, even more if you're going to a job interview in English very soon. So I hope that you find it helpful. I hope that if you have never watched Rocky, please go watch it right away, because if you are in a process of getting that job, it's gonna give you the energy boost and the motivation.